as early as 1997, our government began to get a sense that it would need a closer relationship with communities, not yet giving communities the responsibility for itself, but asking more of it. And it requests then that universities play a special role with respect to this. And I read to you a short excerpt from the white paper of 1997. It says the following. It makes specific reference to the role that community engagement can play in transforming the higher education system. And it speaks to the national goals and gives to community engagement a central role in the life of the universities. So it says to the universities, we want you to assist us with having communities take more responsibility for what they are doing. The universities found themselves in a bit of a difficulty with this third element of their mandate. The first element, of course, was the element of teaching and learning. The second element is the element of research. And the third element then, and in the white paper expressed as an important element, is now the element of community engagement. So how do universities think about this? Where does it place community engagement in the hierarchy of its mandates? And my own perspective on this is very clear. Its greatest contribution to community development is for us to, at the University of the Western Cape, produce excellent students. People who come here, who are able to, through their energy and their sense of purpose and their goals, put all of their energy behind the development of themselves and their cohorts of brother and sister students, so that we can provide for South Africa the brain power that it needs in order to make its way. And I consider that to be the most important function of this university. It's one that we take very, very seriously at the University of the Western Cape. The second function, most important function, is the research function, because we are now in a time when there is such change everywhere that it is almost impossible to imagine that you already have the answers to that change, and that the past gives you your past knowledge gives you the answers to the challenges that are facing you. So we must then accept that without new knowledge, we South Africans will not make a good go of it. And so our responsibility is, as quickly as possible, and given the fact that we now have access to things digital, we should be trolling this world to try to bring into South Africa as much of the new knowledge necessary for it to support itself in this very, very complex environment. And the third one, the one that does worry universities a little bit, and some have even said it ought not to be a mandate for universities, is the mandate of community engagement. My own view on this is that it takes two forms. One is that it acts as an organ that services the community. We now have the situation where we have large numbers of UWC students going to Theewaterskloof and engaging there with the community, especially the elderly. But this takes the form of service. And you retire from this and others go in and they give the service. It is welcome and it's hugely beneficial. But it doesn't speak to the culture of the community. It doesn't speak to where the community sits relative to itself and its determination to engage with itself and the world in order to be able to assist South Africa to develop. This comprehensive service that we give to the communities of the Western Cape is lauded in every possible way. And we have a wonderful publication here that gives you a sense of the number of such engagements and the range of such engagement and the depth of such engagements. And so we can be very, very proud at the University of the Western Cape for what our students and staff are doing in community. I would think that it contributes greatly to the development of a sense of community. But a part that we should be now getting into, I believe, is also the engagement with community about itself and its own development. And this is, I think, a challenge for us as a university, and one that I believe is going to occupy our minds and our competences to a great extent in the next 10, 15 years. But without our developing in our communities a sense of fierce independence while being part of the whole, I believe that we are going to be stuck with these service delivery marches consistently for perhaps 10, 20, 30 years. The reason for my saying that is that, and the only way to raise the living standards of South Africans is through what South Africans themselves do. And 80% of our South Africans, one can say, do not have the wherewithal, they don't have the money to be able to utilize that money in order to renovate, if you like, or reconstruct the community. And so if they leave that only up to government, it can't work because government doesn't have the resources to accomplish this. And so when the community turns to itself and says, what will we do to make things better here? And how will we organize ourselves to make things better here? And how will we engage with government for the support for us as we endeavor to make things better here? How do we understand that in order for our development to be rapid, we have to increase the size of our economy quite dramatically? And how does one do that? There are examples all over the world about how this is possible, but at the heart of all of this is education. Education both in the school system, education in the universities, education in the other forms of learning, like the technicons and the technical colleges. But what we need is a country of people who understand this, who understand the connection between education, ownership, hard work, and the good future. And so begin the discourse in community, hopefully with the help of universities, where people have been studying these matters for a long, long time, to engage with universities, not to leave a service, but to engage as a partner in building a new consciousness in that community about itself and the ways in which it supports South Africa's development. I was fortunate enough for 8 years of my life to be the chairperson of the Strand Community Forum. And it was really an exercise in democracy. It was a forum of not individuals, but of organizations in the community. And so that each organization was asked to send its delegates, properly mandated by that organization, to participate in the discourse about the Strand at that time, its past and the wounds we carried from the past, and its present, and the battle we were then fighting for our freedom, and then the future. How do we project this into the future? It was a wonderful, wonderful engagement with these 37 organizations coming together once a month to speak about this, to make decisions about it, to ask the questions about what can we do about this ourselves, and how do we then mobilize ourselves to be able to do this. And so this is what I hope it will characterize the relationship between the University of the Western Cape and our communities, with large numbers of our students going into those communities to model for those communities what is possible when an institution like the University of the Western Cape sends its best and brightest and most committed students to them, to work with them, to provide a service for them. Hopefully also to engage in the developmental aspect of it. But for the university also with its academic life, becoming a source of wisdom and experience to the community leaders, so that they may begin to construct the kinds of communities that understand the danger South Africa is in at the moment with respect to its future, and how important it is for communities to take full responsibility of that future, and what the mechanisms are by which you can bring together leaders in community and have those leaders begin to develop a discourse in the community about the most important challenges facing South Africa. We must hope also that the national plan, the strategic plan, then becomes something that we use as a framework for what South Africa is hoping to become. So We are proud of our department that is responsible for community engagement, and Priscilla Daniels. They've done an amazing job. We've also gone beyond the publication. We have now created a database which will capture for us all the activity on our campus as it relates to community engagement, and hopefully now more and more to community development. And that database allows us to get a helicopter view of this university and its relationship to its communities, to be surprised by what others are doing in your field, and how, if you were to work together in a multidisciplinary way, you could perhaps do far, far greater work in a much, much shorter time than is currently possible. We are a university with a great sense of responsibility. We took responsibility bravely when we challenged the apartheid government so that we might be free. Now we've got to take on this new challenge. How, in the shortest possible time, do we create a vibrant economy? We create a top class education system. We create a citizenry that is loving and caring, and we create communities that have found themselves, that are operating with high levels of independence, own initiative, within the framework set for us, challenging the frameworks too where it is necessary, for us to be able to, out of those communities, produce the young people who have to go to schools with the right understanding or the perspective on why this is important, and for them to work through us diligently throughout their school life, so that when they come here, they're fully prepared for life in higher education, and they fully understand why this is important, and they commit themselves to their work and at the universities. They pass, they go out, and they become citizens that assist this nation to find itself.